Americans are now in the midst of the third racist intercontinental greed scheme, which I will explain. And it has to do with the powers behind supporting illegal immigration. Both President Trump and former President Obama believed in immigration enforcement. Obama and Trump have different rhetoric and methodologies, however, but they both believe in it. Later, I will detail the first and second racist intercontinental schemes, which started in the 15th with a pope authorizing slavery in West Africa. The longer lasting Arab slavery committed castration and left the bones of mostly women in the Sahara Desert, seen in the 1800s by Europeans. As a boy, my neighborhood Catholic friends and I rode our bicycles from the west side of South Bend, Indiana, to fish in the pond at Notre Dame, a Catholic university. We caught some fish too and fried them. At that time, I didn't know that their Pope had given approval 500 years earlier, authorizing the enslavement of West Africans. And the second racist intercontinental greed scheme in the 19th and 20th centuries was to whitenize Latin American countries and get rid of or minimize, reduce the number of Afro-Latinos. Although I voted for former President Biden, who did a good job in my opinion, he was more concerned with what the Pope thought than I would have liked. I campaigned for Kamala Harris, and a Latina asked me, she said, "You voting for her? Everybody I know is voting for Trump." I too believe in illegal immigration enforcement for economic justice reasons. By the way, as a person who has had guns pointed at my head on 2 occasions in unsuccessful robberies, I don't believe or don't understand how 2 or more law enforcement persons can't arrest a person or a suspect without killing them, especially when a weapon is not in his or her hands. Each officer could grab one arm of the suspect and control the suspect without killing them, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. Now, whether that be Eric Garner or Alex Pritt, why are some Americans willing to risk their lives in the first place by interfering with federal officers to arrest people who are suspected of breaking the law, immigration law, or any other crime? Americans don't have that luxury. We say, if you can't do the time, don't do the crime. Our Senator Hall would say, protection of Latin American church investments that benefit Protestant and Catholic churches here also is one main reason why they are protecting the immigrants. Money flowing from the United States to Latin America. Catholic church parishioners filed sexual abuse lawsuits against Catholic priests, their Catholic priests, in the billions of dollars, millions of dollars in the last 30 years. The church can generate money by getting immigrants into American jobs. Should all Americans who immigrated the right way and those who suffered slavery, Jim Crow, and the death for centuries be denied opportunities or risk businesses competing with them because immigrants are not playing by the rules because they need to pay their bills? No, I don't think that should be the case. Why should we do that? All because priests cost the Catholic Church billions of dollars in lawsuits? No. And they had to sell property and that kind of thing. Although most dioceses filed for bankruptcy in the church, they spent $57 million to buy the Crystal Cathedral in 2017 in Southern California. 1 million workers. If they are citizens, of America, that means 1 million times FICA per year. For example, $500, that's a $500,000 that goes to FICA annually. If there are 1 million immigrants working, holding those jobs, that means zero is going to FICA, Social Security, Medicare. Do cartels or the church sponsor their businesses? In my 20 points, I will show you why protests by 100 pastors and other protesters in Minneapolis, and then also in Chicago and also in other cities, is not just about relieving U.S. oppression, or it's not about relieving the poor in the United States. These pastors and their bishops need to go to the countries that are giving that are not giving economic justice to their people. The countries where people are fleeing from need to stop corruption, economic injustice. Protests, these churches need to protest for living wages, minimum wage, against race discrimination, against reduction of cocaine and manufacturing fentanyl that's exported all over the country. In my 20 points, we will cover related topics. I will address many of these issues from my personal experience, living in Minneapolis as a pastoral student, a drug counselor in Chicago at a Christian drug rehab center, making $15 a week after my freshman summer. I directed multi-denominational and multi-religious programs in a 20,000 populated community where I suffered racism among my white Christian brothers. Also, my brother, Father O'Brien, he suffered as well from their discrimination. The cost of living in my years living in Latin America is important to tell as well, because many Americans know wages in third world countries are low, but they're not really familiar with the cost of living. I paid as little as $8 a week for a room in Latin America. We will explain the part that former President Ronald Reagan played in the third racist Intercontinental greed scheme. I will explain when it started. I will explain in detail what the first and second racism Intercontinental greed schemes and the social injustices consequences are. So like and hit the alert. We're going to take an honest look at consequences of the imbalances in social engineering in my 20 points. Americans, including Black Americans, when given the credit, have always been innovative, which is not, according to the World Bank, that's not happening in Latin America. The roof ember wall, patented in 2025, is less than $100, cheaper than a roof or rebuilding your house again because of a house fire or wildfire that started on your roof. Embers start fires, and embers can float a mile to land on your roof. The internet says 90% of house fires start on the roof. The roof ember wall helps prevent fires before they start due to embers on your roof. The roof ember wall sprays in 4 directions for a radius of 15 feet or more for hours to kill embers before they become a fire that you can see on your roof while you go about doing other things. The roof ember wall saves water. The roof ember wall can be moved around with your feet on the ground. Democrats and Republicans may cringe, but it's for the good of America. God bless you, and God bless America.